this transparency claim is a datum, I think we ought to at least be suspicious of the denial. Maybe phenomenology is hard, but this at least suggests that embracing this phenomenological claim, that one does have experience of thinking, wanting, hoping, fearing, that there's a red dot in front of one. Well, at least so far, it doesn't seem to have obvious costs, obvious phenomenological costs, such that one ought to deny it, even if it involves leading one downstream to highly skeptical conclusions. So, okay, at least it seems to be the denial of this claim is not a datum. A natural view, I think, is that at least on introspection, one is aware of thinking P, wanting P, seeing P, and so on, and that these are forms of phenomenological awareness one can have with a distinct phenomenological character. Now, Fred has suggested in discussion the view that one's aware of wanting, one's aware of the wanting, perhaps, and one's aware of P, the red dot, but one's not aware of wanting P, sort of in combination. Here, one worry that naturally occurs is that, well, maybe there's going to be weird false conjunctions here. There are conjunctions that need to be distinguished. The experience of seeing a blue dot and wanting a red dot, what a sad, pathetic position to be in. You see a blue dot, I really wanted a red dot now. That differs from that of seeing a red dot and wanting a blue dot. These are, this is a matter not just of the content, not just of the attitude, but of the way they're combined. Prima facie, those are different things. Another alternative someone could raise here is that the wanting, the seeing, and the thinking does make a difference to the character of the experience, but only as a mode of awareness, and not as an object of awareness. Being aware of the wanting, the seeing, the thinking that matters. Now, a few things to say about that. For a start, that's going to require a less pure form of representationalism for those of you who know about this stuff, where experiences aren't just matters of having content, but matters of standing in certain specific and different relations to content. I mean, maybe that's okay. It also, this view on the face of it seems to be less phenomenologically plausible to me, at least in the introspective case. I think the pre-introspective case, which I'll talk about shortly, the straight perceptual case, I guess it's not totally obvious that when one sees, one's seeing is an object of awareness. In introspection, it sure seems that one's seeing, I look at this bottle, okay, in perception I'm aware of the bottle, introspection, I'm seeing the bottle. I mean, plausibly, that I'm visually experiencing the bottle is an object of my awareness. So it seems less phenomenologically plausible in the introspective case. Now, again, phenomenology is hard. I don't take anything there as conclusive. But again, I don't think you can get to the point where this is a sort of phenomenological datum and its denial is not. Again, given the seriousness of where strong transparency leads us, I think there's good reasons to deny it. So, okay. So I'm inclined to go for a model that denies strong transparency and says one can be aware and experience of one's mental states, one's mental acts, the seeing, the thinking, the wanting, the visually experiencing, the hoping, the fearing of P in all these cases. But a question then immediately arises. You've got two different kinds of models you might develop. On one model, well, the key diagnostic question is is it the case that whenever one consciously sees the P or thinks the P and so on, is it the case one is always phenomenologically aware of seeing the P, thinking the P, and so on, and even before engaging in introspection? Or is it the case that only upon engaging in certain forms of introspection does one become aware of seeing, thinking, wanting the P in this way? And you get two quite different models based on this, both of which I think are compatible with everything I've said to date. The introspective model says, well, only in introspection are you aware and experience of these mental states. What I'll call the ubiquity model says, no, as a matter of fact, one's always aware and experiences of those states. Whenever one visually experiences the bottle, one is aware of visually experiencing a bottle, and so on. Now, I think both models are to be taken seriously. I don't have a really firm grip on the choice between them. I don't have a firm preference. So the introspective model will say something like, in ordinary cases of consciously seeing or wanting or thinking P, one's aware of P, the content, the red dot. But not, in ordinary, when one just sees the red dot, one isn't aware of seeing the red dot or visually experiencing the red dot. In ordinary cases of wanting or thinking that there's a red dot, one's not aware of wanting or thinking. One just sees the dot. One just wants the dot. One just thinks about the dot. In ordinary perception, wanting or thinking. There'll be modes of awareness here. Seeing, wanting, and thinking will be different. different ways of being aware of or being related to red dots or the propositions about red dots. But these will just be modes of awareness, not objects of awareness. Okay, that's the first component. Second component will be on introspection. One becomes aware of seeing, wanting, or thinking that there's a red dot, or seeing, wanting the red dot, and so on. And that will be a new kind. This will be at the very least, a reorientation of one's experience, so that what was previously a mode of awareness becomes an object of awareness. So it looks like there's a special kind of introspective awareness on this model, and perhaps a special kind of introspective experience. Just a couple of worries about this view, nothing decisive. Worry one is, boy, it looks like it's saying the introspective experience is fundamentally different in kind from ordinary pre-perceptual experience. You might think that just as the awareness of, redness and awareness of squareness and so on are some new components of experience, bits of mental paint, you might think this would require there be some new component of experience, awareness of the seeing, the wanting, the thinking that arises only on introspection. Maybe a new bit of mental paint. And it looks like you might think we don't find that. So worry people have raised, there's various things you can say in response, like it's not a bit of mental paint or it's just a new bit of structure. A worry I take a bit more seriously here is the thought that there's something plausible in the claim that the perceptual state serves, when I see the red dot, when I visually experience the red dot, and then I come to believe that I'm seeing a red dot, that the initial state serves as a kind of grounds for the introspective state. The perceptual state serves as something of a reason for, or grounds for, or evidence for the introspective judgment. Grounds that were there even before entering in to the introspective case. If there is pre-introspective awareness of the visual experiencing, of the thinking or the wanting, then you can see how, quite naturally, how this awareness might serve as a ground for the later introspective judgment. If there's not, if I was just pre-introspectively just aware of the dot and its location, then all the questions that Fred raised get raised, at least as questions about the relationship between the role that the pre-introspective state could play as ground. Now again, you could get around this in different ways. You could try to say, in fact, the pre-introspective state is not the grounds. Introspection changes the character of your experience so that now, after introspection, the state you're in now serves as grounds. But you do lose a certain continuity there. So I've got at least a marginal preference for the ubiquity model as one worth exploring. On this model, in ordinary cases of consciously seeing or wanting or thinking, P, one's aware both of P and of seeing, wanting, or thinking the P. By the way, I hope it's been clear all along that I've been using P here, a term for a proposition, but what I'm saying here also applies just to ordinary objects, like seeing the bottle or wanting the bottle and so on. P might be a proposition, might be an object. Doesn't matter terribly much whether the object exists, and so on. But that said, I'll work with P for a proposition. In ordinary cases of seeing, consciously seeing, wanting, or thinking the P, one's aware both of P, the bottle, its location, the red dot, its color, and of seeing, wanting, or thinking the P. And here the thought is that maybe P is in the foreground of awareness. The bottle is in the foreground of awareness in its color and location. The red dot's in the foreground of awareness, but the seeing or the visually experiencing of the bottle is in the background of awareness. When I think about consciously think about the Third World War, the Third World War is in the foreground of my awareness, but the thinking about the Third World War is in the background of my awareness. So that's a thought, and then upon introspection, one attends to the seeing, the wanting, and the thinking, so that seeing, wanting, and thinking P moves into the foreground of awareness. One becomes sort of explicitly aware of the seeing, the wanting, or the thinking. And as I'll mention in a moment, I think this corresponds to a fairly familiar model both in the phenomenological and the analytic traditions. So here there's no new components of experience, just a reorientation of attention, if you like. And so that I think gets around the mental paint worry of just taking what was already a background awareness and intended to bring it into foreground awareness. Likewise, you've plausibly got pre-introspective grounds for your introspective state. The pre-introspective awareness of the thinking serves as grounds for the introspective judgment that you're thinking. Now, what are the worries here? Well, one worry is just whether it's phenomenologically plausible. So you have all this extra awareness all the time. Some might think it makes the phenomenology too complex. Another worry is a potential regress, that you've got to be aware